Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the steps needed to disassemble this for transport. I will be transporting it on an open car hauler trailer. First things first, what I like to do is I like to fold the horizontal stabilizer up in the position. So to do that, we got to remove the connecting bracket for the elevators, and then remove the two support cables from underneath each stabilizer itself. And then we also need to remove the support cables for the wings. And then we'll also be removing the strut supports. The small little struts have two bolts that attach to the wing. As long as those two bottom bolts are somewhat loose, you can just move those arms out the way. And then we'll also have two mounting bolts for the front and rear spars. We also have to remove the elevator arms, and that's basically it. 7/16, half inch, and 3/8 are pretty much the only things you need. Depending on what tools you're using, you may need two wrenches or impact wrench and a regular open box wrench. So we'll start with removing the connecting bracket for the elevator. Each side has just one bolt in the bracket that attaches to each elevator, and then underneath you need to remove the elevator control arm, which has a single bolt. Once you remove the arm, then the elevator is free and you can just remove the bracket. And then you're going to release the supporting cables underneath. You have two on each stabilizer fin. You'll notice that I removed the rudder. You don't need to, and really I'm going to probably end up putting it back. But see, we can for transport, I like to fold the stabilizer up and secure them in an upward position, so that way they're not flapping in the wind. And here I'm removing the cables, the supporting cables for the wings. But yeah, the rudder is not necessary to remove if you're just using an open car hauler type trailer. So I'll probably end up putting the rudder back on before I load it on the trailer. Right now you can see me just removing the two small support struts from the attachment points on each wing, and you can just fold those out of the way. And now I'm removing the nuts from the the aileron control arms. And I'll leave the bolt and the nuts on the arms themselves. And then also now removing the arms for the flaps. And once again, I just leave the bolts and the nuts together on the arm itself. Doing the same thing to the other side. Now, in reality, you don't actually need to remove the arms for the elevator or for the ailerons. The only ones that are really needing to be detached are the ones for the flaps. I wasn't thinking about that when I did this, but I realized later that I didn't actually need to disconnect the arms from the ailerons. But that's a 30-second process for each one. I've also removed the nuts from the main support down where it attaches the main struts where they attach to the fuselage. I've removed the nuts from those bolts, but of course left the bolts in place so that way they hold. Now we're going to go ahead, remove the center cover, and remove the aileron control bolt from the center, so that way the ailerons are now free and independent of the control arm. And then I'll just go ahead and completely remove the center cover and get that out of the way. And so for removal of the wings, you just basically have two mounting points for each wing. You have the front and rear spar where they attach to the brackets. You have a single bolt. So remove the nut and the washer that goes on each bolt. And then on my wing, I have the pitot tube running through the wing. So I have a detach where it attaches there. Just got to detach the hose from that fitting. And go grab your helper, and we are now ready to remove the wing. That'll be the first thing with the helper supporting the wingtip. Just lift up and release the pressure on there and remove that bolt. Now, as you can see, I like to leave the struts in place. So with the helper lifting up on the wingtip, it allows you to move the strut down and support the wing. So that way the helper is not having to hold that wing while you work on removing the bolts from the spar. Now on this wing, I ended up removing the rear bolt and then the front bolt. That's not the way I recommend it, because as you can see in the video, when I remove without the rear one, basically it's tail heavy or rear heavy because of the elevator and aileron and everything. So I almost lose it here because it was just the rear of the wing is a lot heavier. So yeah, so I recommend removing the front bolt first and then removing the rear bolt last, so that way you can support the heaviest part of the wing, which is the rear of the wing. And then at this point, I just flip it on its backside, taking care not to allow the strut to hit the wing, and just have your helper hold the strut up to allow removal of the two bolts that attach the strut to the wing. So now we just move to the other side, remove the other wing, and you'll notice this time I did the proper procedure. Of course, with the helper supporting the wingtip, move the strut down, set it on the ground. That way it can support the wing, and remove the front bolt first, and then remove the rear bolt. So that way, once the wing detaches, you can support the wing from the rear side, which is the heavier side. And when you're doing this, obviously you want to be careful. Once you've removed the wing from the fuselage, be careful with the strut. Make sure that those arms are flat out and not protruding. So just in case the strut swings towards the wing, you definitely don't want that poking a hole in your covering, in your fabric. So you see here it was a much easier and cleaner removal because I was already supporting the rear of the wing. And so at this point we just flip the wing over, being careful with the strut, and just lay the wing down on its back side. And then once again just go through the process of removing the two bolts from the strut to remove the strut from the wing. And there you are. Less than 30 minutes total time to disassemble everything that needs to be removed for transport. And that's including the few minutes that it took me to remove the rudders. So It's very quick to disassemble and get this thing ready to get loaded on the trailer. Uh, there is the next video that will be coming. I will show you reassembly at the airport. Now, obviously, reassembly is going to take a little bit longer than disassembly. Things always come apart faster than they go back together. But typically 45 minutes tops, and you should have everything reassembled. Yeah, until next time, I'll post the next video whenever it's done, probably within a few days.